at me. You're the purple line.
Get away from me.
You're scared of me.
You are a monster. Look at what you did. Should I not be scared?
You should be.
Hi guys, welcome back to Falafel Reacts. Thank you so much for being here. On this channel, we react to gorlworld content, mainly Amberlynn Reid, Foodie Beauty, Life Plus Cindy, Glitter and Lasers, and some other folks. Today will not be much of a reaction. It's more so going to be me presenting to you the research that I have done into the whole legal debacle going on between Amberlynn Reid and her aunt, Tammy. What I have spent the past few hours doing is researching the Oklahoma state statutes as it relates to small claims filings, going through, different databases, Westlaw, LexisNexis, things that I am good at doing. And I figured that we would talk about the filing that Tammy submitted. We would go through it. We talk about what this means for Amberlynn. What are some potential options based on other legal precedents or the statutes in Oklahoma? And we would just look at it together.
How she's doing.
I should mention that I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a paralegal. I'm not legally trained in any way, but I do know how to navigate a lot of these databases and government websites. So that's what I'm good at. So that's what I did. So I'm comfortable with my research and then presenting my research, but obviously it's not legal advice. It's not legally binding. It's not a legally binding conversation, which I don't think anyone is coming to Falafel Reacts for that, to be fair. But I just figured I would kind of talk about what I found, what I think will happen, some potential possibilities, and then we'll just talk about it in the comments as usual. Before I get into the deep dive of the filing, I do want to give a recap of Tammy and how she overlaps with Amberlynn Reid, and a huge thank you to I think the first video. Yeah, the first video I put up about Amberlynn, where I reacted to the phone call that happened on Amberlynn's live stream. I got a lot of really good comments from that video, and a lot of people were like, no, you have to look into the lore. There's way more to this. So I have spent time also researching and looking into that. And so I feel obviously not 100% I know everything, but I try to watch some of Amberlynn's really way older vlogs, from the Crystal era, from when she still talked really low, when she was all shy and stuff, from that era. So I did go through some of those to get a better background knowledge on Tammy and Amberlynn. So I'll try to give some semblance of a summary. Obviously there's other channels that have done a much better, deeper dive. Just a summary for the sake of this video. So what we do know about Tammy is that she has been present in the ALR universe pretty much since the beginning, since Amberlynn started her channel. The earliest mention of her that I could find was in a very, very early video where Amberlynn uploaded, I think this was about 13 years ago, definitely more than 10, but Amberlynn uploaded a 2-part series where she talked about the background of her own life. And part of that, in a very, very fleeting passing way, she said that at some point she lived with her aunt. It was the first mention in Amberlynn's videos that I could find of her bringing up who I believe is Tammy. Then there have been more mentions. Amberlynn has not shied away talking about Tammy. There is the famous, I think she hates me or she hated me because I was fat comment. And since then we have seen Tammy interact with Amberlynn Reid via the interwebs and with reactors, with Kiwi farms, forums, stuff like that. So it's been kind of back and forth and in a public platform, although it's not been consistent throughout the years of Amberlynn being online. What we do know, some has surfaced recently and some we've always known, was that Amberlynn did in fact live with her aunt, and there was an issue that went down and Tammy kicked her out. We also know that Tammy was aware of Amberlynn's relationship with Casey, and that she had, well, now we know that she had some feelings about what went down between Amberlynn and Casey. Also, as a side note, that's almost completely unrelated. When I was doing this research, I saw a video where Amberlynn was vlogging. This is when she moved in with Crystal. Crystal was Amberlynn's second girlfriend, as far as we know, because we know of Casey, Crystal, Destiny, Beck, Wifey, Valentine, and Emily. Oh, wow, 7. So Casey was first, and then Crystal, as far as, the internet is concerned. So this vlog was from when Amberlynn moved in with Crystal and was living with Crystal and her parents in their house. And I'll insert the clip.
Pretty much fall asleep at a little after 4 a.m. and I normally wake up at 1:30 p.m. So
Girl, first of all, that's crazy. Your sleep schedule has always been cuckoo, but like, imagine that you let your child's partner move in because you're trying to help them out. You know that they've been through the foster system. Like, you want to give them a safe place to stay, and they're just like mooching off you. You're making them food. You're giving them an allowance, because that's, at one point it was mentioned that she was getting money from the family because they were so nice to her. But imagine like this adult moves in and she's not driving. She's not wanting to learn how to drive, and she's going to sleep at 4 a.m. and waking at 1 p.m. Do you know how much that would piss me off? Because I'm an early riser. I get up like between 5 and 6. So no one in my house is getting up at 1 p.m. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm talking bring the pots and the ladles. Nope. Okay? So that is neither here nor there. I just like thought that was something worth sharing. We also know that at some point Tammy was in a relationship where there was intimate partner violence, and that for some reason Amberlynn felt like it was okay to weaponize that against Tammy and threaten exacerbating that interpersonal relationship between Tammy and her partner by threatening to say or do XYZ. Knowing that definitely helps inform a little bit more as to why Tammy may have kicked out Amberlynn Reed when she lived with her many years prior. I just find it to be very interesting. Amberlynn also at one point mentioned that she lived with her grandmother and also was kicked out of there. So I just think that whatever we have since learned about Amberlynn, looking at those or knowing those behaviors in context with family members having kicked her out, I feel like does help inform us as to how Amberlynn may have been acting in their households. Obviously, we fast forward to now and we know that in the past few years, Amberlynn has since moved back to Oklahoma and has rekindled her connection and relationship with her family members, most notably Mama Lynn, Grandma. They've been going out to bingo. They've been hanging out. She has also mentioned kind of reconnecting with some of her siblings, but more not necessarily rekindling, but just like knowing of or having contacted them since foster care. So we know that there's been some effort on her part to not just relocate, but also reconnect with family members. And so that's where Tammy comes in now, because they are all, so right now the characters at play, Amberlynn Reed, Mama Lynn, Grandma Lynn, Tammy Lynn, all live in Oklahoma. They all live in the same county. So they are all in near proximity, which as far as we know has not happened in a long time for that whole family. We also know that Mama Lynn has met Emily. We also know that Mama Lynn has met Feline. I'm pretty sure has met Feline for like a moment, but mainly has met and hung out with Emily. I bring up Emily, and Emily is important in this situation because one of the main sources of conflict between Tammy and Amberlynn is Emily. So if we fast forward to present day, we know that Tammy and Amberlynn have been very recently feuding publicly. I would say this most recent spat between them started about a month ago. And according to Tammy, it started for a lot of different reasons that she stated in her phone call on the live stream with Oh Lordy It's Jordy, but also directly to Amberlynn. She cited a lot of reasons. She cited some kind of dispute with her sister. She cited that she did not appreciate Amberlynn taking advantage of Mama Lynn and Mama Lynn's sobriety, some kind of dispute over a house and an estate. We also know that one of Tammy's biggest gripes with Amberlynn revolved around Emily and the allegations of Emily being a feeder and all of the things that we have come to learn about Emily/Tommy together on this platform. Tammy also knows and has learned with us, and so that has been a huge issue for her. So in addition to her being hurt by the fact that Amberlynn moved to Oklahoma and she latched onto Mama Lynn and that's it, did not seem to care to connect with Tammy, with her aunt, even though Tammy has stated that she has done a lot for her. On top of all of that, Amberlynn also has chosen to stay with Tommy slash Emily, Emily slash Tommy, I'll use it interchangeably, has chosen to stay with her despite all the allegations come out. Despite coming online and lying about not being with her, she was still with Emily. And Tammy did express pretty clearly that she was not okay with that. She was not a fan of Tommy. She was not okay with her niece being with someone that was a feeder. She was not okay with her niece being with someone whose ex literally passed away because of their unhealthy lifestyle that was exacerbated by the whole feeder situation that they had going on amongst each other. There are other reasons that Tammy has stated being upset with Amberlynn, but I'm not going to go into all of them just because it's a lot of detail. And what I will say is that in general, there's just a lot of hurt from Tammy's side, and it seems that from Amberlynn's side, there's a lot of spinning of stories, a song and dance. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, yes, I did message you. A lot of inconsistency on Amberlynn's side and a lot of genuine hurt on Tammy's end. Now, having said that, if you go and you watch the reaction I had to Tammy's phone call to Amberlynn, I still stand by a lot of what I said, but I understand Tammy a lot more now, having done the research, and I understand where she is coming from. At the end of the day, I am still very wary of new characters in gorlworld, and so I don't tend to like latch on or to hype people up. I've just been burned way too many times in gorlworld, and I mean, I remember when Alexis came on the scene, and like everyone was like, "Oh, great, yay, Alexis!" And then we like, if you're willing to sell out your friend, I don't care if your friend is Chantal or Amberlynn. If you say you're a friend to a person and you're gonna sell them out that easily, and then now you're back to being friends, you are so lame, so pathetic, so cringy. Like, I'm not going to trust you. Why would I trust what you say to me when to your own friend you are not trustworthy? So I'm not saying that Tammy is anything like Alexis, okay? I think Tammy has real, genuine hurt, and she's just expressing it in an erratic way online, but I believe her feelings are true and genuine. After the incredible phone call between Tammy and Amberlynn, where Tammy pretty much read Amber to filth, left her silenced, okay? That's what Tammy did to Amberlynn.
I'm finally ready. I got the receipts. I got the proof. I'm not afraid of you, Amber, unlike all your other victims. I thought I had seen and heard everything that you've done over these years, but I was so blind by your manipulation. And when I seen half of the videos that I've seen with documented proof of how you treat people, not only in our family, but people in general, you are one vile, disgusting human being, and I want nothing to do with you ever again. Cry and boo-hoo and you at her house going, well, I don't understand why I can't talk to my aunt.
After that, Amberlynn went into just like PR. It was a PR madness issue for her pretty much, okay? And she has no manager, does not have a PR person. So she was like clamoring to try to figure out how she can regain control of the narrative, because that is huge for Amberlynn. She needs to be in control of the narrative. And just like any emotionally stunted adult that no longer controls people around them, when they lose that control, what do? They start crying. So we got the waterworks. We got the denying of things. We got the, I was disassociating. Are you sure you don't mean dissociating? No, I think she meant disassociating. I think she meant to say that because I don't think she knows what the other word is. Those didn't work, okay? Normally in the past, either of those three would have worked, right? The crying online, the throwing back accusations, and the claiming that her mental health is so low. That has worked for her in the past to some extent, but very rapidly and all at once, it just didn't work. And Tammy was like, no, you've been dragging my family's name through the mud. You've been doing XYZ to me. You've been talking about this stuff publicly. And now that I come out publicly, you have an issue. Oh, hell no. So what does Amberlynn Reed do? She thinks that she really she really thought she was about to wrap this up. She was like, let me throw this accusation at Tammy and it's about to shut everything down. So Amberlynn goes live and says this.
Because you are an abuser yourself. You have manipulated me since the minute I met you when I was 17. So for you to lie to people and say that we met when I was 14, which my mom, my grandma, your daughter all said never happened. I sat there in that live stream and you were gaslighting me so hard about some spaghetti story from when I was 14 that I almost started to believe it myself. So you and Jordy can go frolic in the daisies together. Jordy, I take that back. We're never going to frolic together because I will not stand for a PDF apologist and someone who forces little children to say that they lied about it. No wonder why when I shared my story about what happened to me when I was 7, you sit there and call me a liar. You are sick, period.
And I think that's when Tammy was like, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. You thought you were going to do something? You thought... You know, one of my complaints about you was that you were dragging my family's name through the mud. And now you're going to do that to me about this topic in this way on your platform to over 200,000 people and potentially more, because whatever you put on the internet is forever. That brings us to right now. Okay. Because Tammy, oh yeah, she marched down to the courthouse and she filled out that paperwork and she paid the fees. And that's where we're at now. Okay. So we are going to be looking at the filing. So what we're looking at now is the docket for the small claims case number that Tammy filed. I want to give a few disclaimers. Once again, I am not an attorney. This is not legal advice. This is not legal interpretation. This is the interpretation of these publicly available records, dockets, and resources made available by the Oklahoma County. I just want to make sure that I get it right. It's made available by the Oklahoma State Courts Network website, and other information and other resources that I consulted were Westlaw, LexisNexis, which are all law databases. These are all publicly accessible materials. At most, they are behind a paywall, an academic wall, if it's a database. Okay, so these are all things theoretically you should be able to source yourself. Anything I link to will be publicly accessible. Obviously, I will not link in the description. I will not link to something that is behind any kind of like sign-in, credentialing, paywall, anything like that. But I just want to make it be clear that this is a layperson's interpretation and understanding of all of these things, not a legal interpretation. What we can see here is the lawsuit filed by Tammy Robertson against Amberlynn Reed. We can see it's a small claims case filed in the Oklahoma County District Court. It's filed under case number SC-2025-17997 on September 2nd, 2025, and the claim is for indebtedness exceeding $5,000, meaning that Tammy alleges Amber owes her money. Usually in situations like these, based off of my research, it's for unpaid loans, some kind of support, or financial obligations. Typically, see that the case was assigned to Chief Special Judge. Now, Chief Special Judge is not a title in which one person is a Chief Special Judge. There is a list of them, and so we can go through that and we can speculate which one we think will get assigned to it. Typically, I believe on the day of, whoever is available gets assigned. I'm not 100% sure about that in Oklahoma, but that's how I've seen it in other places. I want to give a bit more of overview before I get into the nitty-gritty, just some background. So I know that I have a lot of international viewers, so that's why I might be explaining things that a lot of other people or Americans are familiar with, but I just kind of want to give the background. So small claims courts are designed for relatively quick and informal dispute resolutions. It typically involves limited amount of money, and this is true in most US states, but definitely for the state of Oklahoma per statute. So very often in small claims court, a person can represent themselves. So pro se representation is typically how it's done. The inception of small claims courts in the United States was based on it was very democratic. It was based on the idea that courts and demanding and getting justice ought to be more accessible. So a person shouldn't always have to go to a civil court for everything. They shouldn't always need legal representation. It should not be this convoluted process. And so that's why the small claims court systems were set up. In other countries, there are similar systems to this. They're just named a little differently. So if you're from the UK, you might recognize this as small claims track in county court. In Canada, it's same thing. It's known by the small claims court. In Australia, it's the magistrates court, but more specifically, the small claims division. In New Zealand, it's referred to as the disputes tribunal. So now that I've kind of given the background of small claims, I just thought that that might be interesting to know because before I got into the field of work that I'm in now, I didn't really understand the difference between courts. And so we hear about a lot of different ones. So if you think of them as levels in the United States, we have the highest in the state is usually the Supreme Court. And right below that is the appellate court. And below that is civil courts. And then the absolute lowest tier is small claims. And they sort of increase in the complexity of cases handled. But for example, an appellate court, their sole purpose is to look at appeals or overruled cases from civil courts. And civil lawsuits that go to civil courts are usually more complex. I believe you are able to represent yourself, but most of the time the filing is a lot more complicated. So you typically will seek out an attorney, and there's no cap on what you can request typically. And I believe based off my research, and looking through the Oklahoma state statutes, that is true. There is no cap typically because you could be suing for anything. It's not for small things that can be resolved in front of a judge necessarily. Small claims courts are designed for relatively quick and informal resolution of disputes the way that we see here. It can involve typically a limited amount of money. Parties, like I mentioned before, they are able to represent themselves. Typically, that is what will happen is people will go to small claims so that they can represent themselves. And the court will always encourage mediation before trial. They are just trying to get parties to come to some kind of an agreement so that it doesn't necessitate a trial. Now, if Amber does not show up and does not get her own representation, so if she forfeits getting a lawyer or even representing herself by showing up or by following up with this, it could mean that the case will default on Tammy's behalf, based on my research. The court can issue that it is within its power to default an issue in favor of Tammy. I feel like I have seen things thrown around that this is some kind of a defamation case, and I just want to clarify that it is not a defamation case, contrary to some of the rumors that we may be reading online. It's not defamation, it's not harassment, it's a financial dispute at its core, and we can see that represented in the filing. So legally, really what that means is Tammy has to prove that that money or that amount was owed to her or is owed to her, or services were rendered in which she required that money and she was owed that money and it never made its way to her. So Tammy will have to prove that. Either typically through some kind of a contract, maybe texts of an agreement, some kind of verbal agreement if there were witnesses, I presume, evidence of maybe some kind of financial transaction or sending money, or even the memos or notes when you do send money. That could all help make a case for Tammy. And if the case does actually go to trial, this is Amberlynn's chance to kind of dispute anything, follow up, say, oh, well, this money was owed to you and I actually paid it. Here's the receipt. Or no, it doesn't apply. It doesn't make any sense. So that would be Amberlynn's next course of action if this does go to trial. There is a lot of other potential outcomes based off of my research, again, of going through the statute and just knowledge of small claims court systems. What the small claims court system wants to do is obviously mediate before anything goes to trial. And if something does go to trial, it is normal to not need any kind of legal representation. So then both parties go and they bring their own witnesses, they bring their evidence. But Amber also could argue that the money was a gift, or that Tammy actually owes her money, or that Tammy put Amberlynn in a situation where she was no longer making videos, and so actually Tammy now owes her. So a counter suit, a counter filing would not be unheard of in this case. And it is in the realm of possibility, depending on what route Amberlynn chooses to take. I did mention before that based off of my reading of the statutes, Amberlynn can ignore this lawsuit, and she doesn't have to respond or show up to the court date. I mean, the docket is publicly available and it'll update everything in there. So she will know, and she will get mailed something or potentially served it actually in person. But she will know about the court date. And if she does not show up, Tammy could win the case automatically through what's called a default judgment. This basically means that the court will assume Amber agrees with Tammy's claim because she didn't defend herself, she didn't show up, she didn't follow up. And I'm not saying it will happen, but it certainly could. And once that default judgment is entered, the court will issue something to Amber saying, hey, you have to pay this. Now, the court cannot enforce that payment, I don't believe, initially. I think they can just make the statement. And I think eventually, if Tammy does keep following up, if this all goes through and Tammy follows up, she can request from the court to garnish wages from Amberlynn. But again, this implies that this actually went through, the case wasn't dropped, it was seen as valid, Tammy was able to present sufficient evidence to the judge, and Amberlynn Reed does not show up, and the judge decides to vote a default judgment favoring Tammy. So all of those factors would have to, line up. So overall, ignoring the lawsuit, I think, would be the absolute dumbest thing that Amberlynn could do. It forfeits anything on your behalf. It yields the most possibilities of things going wrong for Amberlynn Reed. And this was very curious to me because I feel like her MO is to ignore and to step off the platform because as soon as things started getting real, okay? Because Amberlynn is used to childish back and forth. She's used to the game. She's used to the internet drama. Tammy has been the first person in gorlworld to say, oh, okay, you little kids, you like to run your mouths online? I'm a fully grown adult. I'm going to march down to the courthouse and I'm going to show you what adults do when you run your mouth about them online. She's the first person in gorlworld to do that. And I'm kind of having a hard time predicting what Amberlynn will do, only because this is such an adult thing. And Amberlynn has only operated based on manipulating, for the most part, emotionally stunted adults. And now there's an adult in the picture. So I'm just very interested to see what she does. Back to the filing. This is more nitty gritty, so you may not be interested in it, but here you can see that it's pending. And so as this updates, it will update here. We can also see these fees that are associated with the filing. So you see a small claims fee, a library fee, Oklahoma court system revolving fund. So these are all various fees that go to the court and the court's clerks, the law librarians, any kind of administrative fees. So it's just a breakdown of everything that was paid. Obviously, Tammy would have paid one sum all at once. But this is just a breakdown of where they go. So we can see that a total payment of $219.14 was made on September 2nd, 2025 to cover all of these fees. And you can see a breakdown and where the funds are allocated to various court-related accounts. So these are all the accounts that they go to. We can also confirm that neither parties have retained any attorney at the time of this filing. So yeah, feel free to check back in on this as it changes. I certainly will be. Now, the next thing that I want to look at, or rather show you, I'll just show you how to get there so that you can also look there yourself, but I've kind of read through it and took the big points. And that is the statutes. So in Oklahoma, small claims procedure is governed by Title 12, Chapter 36 of the Oklahoma State Statutes, specifically Title 12, Sections 1751. And the section outlines the types of not only the types of cases that can be brought under small claims procedure, but also any kind of specific stipulations within them. And I will show you how I found that. So first, I want to show you this website, Justia US Law. It's not as good or thorough or accurate as your Westlaw, or like your Hein Online law databases, but it's publicly accessible and it pretty much has the same things. I just don't think it's as robust as some of the other legal and law databases that are typically behind a paywall. So this is all of Title 12, but I also want to show you that it is actually accessible on the Oklahoma State Legislature website, and that is right here. You can see it says Oklahoma State Legislator. Obviously, there's information for residents of the state of Oklahoma, legislation, you can search by committee, you can track bills, look at the Constitution. I love this kind of stuff. So love this. I can do this all day. These are all of the statutes, the most up-to-date version. So you're not going to see historic version, although you may see references to revisions of statutes as they were codified. So this is where I went. I went to Title 12, Civil Procedure, and it brought me to one large PDF, which is like not that great in terms of user experience, but I have it set up right here. And so this is what I was looking at. And so I'll have this pulled up for you to look at on screen while I'm going through the summary of my research as I talk through my summary. But again, I did review this beforehand. This is Title 12, Section 1751. And again, I've not had any kind of formal legal, law, legislative training, so I might use terms inaccurately or incorrectly, but I tried, my best based on the research that I was able to conduct. So this is taken directly from the Oklahoma legislature website. And so what we can see through statutes, right? These are facts that we were able to derive from the statute. Title 12, Section 171 outlines suits authorized under small claims procedure. The following suits may be brought under the small claims procedure: actions for the recovery of money based on contract or tort, including subrogation claims but excluding libel or slander, in which the amount sought to be recovered, exclusive of attorney fees and other court costs, does not exceed $10,000, which is what I mentioned earlier, that you cannot hope to get more than you simply cannot file it if you are seeking more than $10,000. And like I said, Tammy's filing reflects way less than that, half of that amount, so she is okay on that front. The statute also covers cases where the value of personal property does not exceed $10,000. So if she was talking about some kind of personal property that was valued at that she wanted to retrieve back from Amberlynn, it could not be valued at more than $10,000. It also involves situations where a person holds money or property on behalf of someone else, and then the court has to decide who is entitled to it. I don't think Tammy would have bought any kind of estate things into this, because that's typically probate from my understanding, and I don't think this is a venue to do that. I think this is more of maybe someone was supposed to hold money or transfer it to someone and it was supposed to go to someone else and it didn't get there. I think this would be the venue for it. Again, based off of my understanding of what I'm reading. So the reason for these provisions in this statute is so that individuals can resolve certain types of disputes efficiently without needing any kind of formal legal procedures. So you'll notice that the procedures are not complex and they're not nuanced, because those are for civil lawsuits typically. Something else that's worth mentioning is that small claims cases are typically heard in the county where the defendant resides or where the cause of action arose. And in this case, we know both happened in Oklahoma County. Obviously, Tammy knows where Amberlynn lives, but if this is in reference to the phone call on live stream, that is damning evidence, because we know that occurred in Oklahoma. I think either way, Tammy would have been covered because the location of both individuals is in Oklahoma County. But yeah, it also doesn't help that there's proof of the slander going down. So the Oklahoma County District Court is where Amberlynn Reed resides, where Tammy is residing potentially, and where this issue happened, as we saw on video. Something interesting that I want to point to back in the case detail filing that I caught was trying to find, here. This $7 dispute mediation fee. Mind you, these are fees that have already been prepaid by Tammy. So we know that Oklahoma encourages mediation or alternative dispute resolutions for small claims to help settle all, issues without going to trial. And the prepayment of the $7 dispute mediation fee by Tammy suggests to me that she was offered mediation before, or she's open to going to that. It could also be that she was required to. So in my opinion, the prepayment of the $7 dispute mediation fee by Tammy suggests to me that she is open to doing it, was offered the option to do it, or perhaps was required. I did check the statute and I found reference to it in Title 12-1823, you see it right here, referral to mediation. And it says any district court by agreement of the parties may refer any civil case, including any domestic relations case or any portion thereof, for mediation. A referral to mediation may be made at any time while a civil case is pending. The order of referral to mediation shall be entered on a standard form consistent with the form provided in subsection D of section 5 of this act. So at any point of this pending, of it potentially escalating, of a countersuit, based on my understanding, mediation is an option, or referral to mediation is an option, right? Because it says may, not shall. So I just thought that was interesting for me. Again, it could have just been required by the court. It would have been like, it's all lumped into one thing, you have to. Also want to point to statute what I had mentioned earlier, which is that the bank can forcibly take the money from Amberlynn if it's voted in Tammy's favor. And that section begins in Title 12, Section 1171, all the way down to 1174. And it just covers the different ways and situations in which the money is garnished. And I'm citing those in case you are interested in going through the statutes yourself and reading through it. So this is definitely something that, as expected, is supported by statute, and the judge would be able, and the courts would be able to do. One of the last few things I want to mention about all of this is, of course, that the court and the case filings are public records unless the court chooses to seal them. I have no reason to think that will happen. So definitely, go and see them on your own time. They are all public records, so anyone can see it. It is not an invasion of privacy. Typically, any personally identifiable information will be redacted by the courts before it's uploaded, so that shouldn't be an issue. I also tried to look a little bit into the timeline, and in the statute, I don't remember where I saw it, but I did, was it in the beginning? Somewhere in Title 12, it did mention that the defendant has a limited time to respond to the claim, usually 15 to 30 days, and that failure to respond can lead to a default judgment, like I mentioned earlier. So we're gonna get an answer to this pretty quickly, right? She filed this on the 2nd, and right now it's the 5th. So what I found interesting was that if Tammy disagrees with this does not stay in small claims. I mean, if she disagrees with what Tammy's filing, but if she disagrees with what the judge says, if there's a disagreement as to how this ends up, if she doesn't respond and the judge goes one way and she disagrees, or if she tries to do this the pro se way in small claims court and a ruling is made and Amberlynn does not agree with that, she can appeal it, and then it would go to district court, civil court. So that's like the next phase of courts that I mentioned. So that's where it will go. And even if the case is pending, then Tammy, based off of what we just read, Tammy would still have the option of seeking mediation. I believe both parties at any point can see that or can refer to mediation. But that's what we saw in the statute, the language reflecting the $7 fee in the filing. Okay, so that pretty much covers, my revision of the statutes and the case filing. Maybe I went into a bit too detailed for some people. Maybe this was kind of boring, but I'm just aware that there's a lot of international viewers and maybe they're not as aware of the court system in the US. I don't know that it's hyper unique, but I just kind of wanted to lay it all out. Also, it was very interesting for me to kind of go through all of that stuff, so I thought it might be interesting for other people to know. The next thing I want to do is look at Messy Tammy's YouTube channel because she's been running her mouth. I feel like once you take things in a legal route, you need to just be quiet and not speak on it, because like let the legal system do what the legal system wants to do. Let the courts do what the courts will do. Let the judge say as the judge so pleases. And remember, there is some here. You want to see who the judges could be? Let's see. So these are the district judges. That's not actually what I'm looking for. I'm looking for special judges. So again, based off of my understanding of everything I've read, which again is the understanding of a layperson attempting to make sense of legalese, I believe that the designation of a special judge is not a specific person, but rather a type of judge. And so it could be any of these judges. So in a few weeks, potentially, Amberlynn is going to come face to face with one of these. Perry Hudson, who knows? Elizabeth Kerr, Trent Pipes, Martha Oakes, Cassandra Williams, we don't know. Ooh, what's on her docket today? Oh, okay. And then we'll actually be able to see what's on her... Oh, she's got to see all these people in one day? That's too much. Oh, T. I'm just like putting this poor person on blast. Like this poor, not poor like financially, but like, ugh, I feel bad that I just put someone on blast, even though they may have committed a crime. But they did not commit a crime in my court. Maybe in their court, but not in my court, because I don't even know that individual. So before we get into looking at the videos on Tammy's YouTube channel, I want to talk about kind of what I think will happen now that I've looked at the statue and looked into what this could potentially be for Amberlynn, what her options are. I think it will get settled outside of court. That's what I think. I think that Tammy did this heated. I think she's trying to send a message, and that Amberlynn has a great chance, if she plays this right and is smart, she can settle this outside of court. This does not need to turn into a whole thing, because I do not believe that Tammy has enough evidence for this, in my opinion. I don't. Whether I agree or not with the sentiment of her being owed money, I feel is irrelevant. I simply cannot imagine that she has enough to show that money is owed. Again, because this is not filed as a defamation lawsuit or anything like that. It's financial. It is rooted in this person owes me something. So unless Tammy can say, hey, this is how much she owes me, and I do not believe it would be sufficient to the judge to be like, hey, when Amberlynn lived with me when she was 18 years old, how many years ago now, she was supposed to pay rent for the 4 months and she didn't pay. I don't think that would work in court. I can only assume what it is. I'm very interested in it being financial, I guess, is what I'm saying. I don't feel like Tammy has a case for that. At the same time, I don't know how it'll look like if Tammy doesn't have a case but Amberlynn ghosts. What does the judge do in that case? Does he just default it to or do they just default it to Tammy because they're like, well, Amberlynn never showed up, so I guess you win, even if they don't, even if they are not presented with proof? I'm not sure. I think Amberlynn should call Tammy and be like, hey, let's just settle this. I'll write you a check. I'll cut you a check. And matter of fact, while I'm here, let me cut Beck a check too and just settle all these. Why do you want these things like looming over you? You know, like when you die, is this what you want to be remembered for like owing people these things? Like, even if it wasn't financial, but like owing people, I don't know, owing people some kind of closure, owing people a conversation, owing people just ending the relationship in peace. You would think Amberlynn would want to prioritize that, but what do I know? So that's kind of what I think it'll happen. I don't think this has a chance of standing in court. I don't think this is going to turn into a civil case. If Amberlynn lets it get to that, she is exceptionally dumb. It will be such a waste of her money. She needs to really start budgeting. I know she said that she has
An amazing savings. I, worked for my money and I got it.
Hi guys, it's editing Falafel. It's really late at night and I've been editing this video for 5 hours because I've had a lot of technical difficulty. Anyways, I wanted to insert this clip because I saw that Tammy uploaded a video where she's misquoting Socrates, and that just gave me such a hee-hee and a ha-ha, and I just wanted to watch the video. So it starts off with an iconic Socrates quote, "When the debate is lost, slander becomes a tool of the losers." And I'm just so moved by this because, like, Socrates didn't write anything. right? Wasn't it written later on by Plato? So yeah, Socrates, I don't know. It also just does not sound like something Socrates would have written at all. Anyways, I was just intrigued by the quote, so I thought I would just watch the video and see. I did mute it. It's just the music that Amberlynn played when she was walking towards the tree. The na 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 na. So it's just that. This is one of Tammy's videos titled Amberlynn Reed, aka a slanderous snake. Oh, definitions. Punitive damages are available when the defendant acted maliciously. Even if you suffered no economic damages, the court can award nominal damages simply because slander occurred. Okay, but we literally just went through a whole video talking about how that's not what you're filing. Okay, maybe we need some actual lawyers in on this, because that's not what you're filing, though. It's not a defamation case. It's not a... You're just... According to the statutes I read and the definitions that I saw, you're just claiming that you are owed money. You're not making the case that things were said about you and they prevented you from making income. If the defendant shows the statement they made was true, you cannot win a slander lawsuit. Truth is an absolute defense to slander. That's not true, okay? In the court of law, truth is not what wins, okay? It's the best argument and the makeup of the jury is what wins. It's not truth. What? Compensation for slander? Oh, okay. So she thinks that this is a lawsuit for slander, which I don't believe it is based off of what I'm seeing, but maybe I've completely misunderstood everything. That's totally possible. Someone in the comments, feel free to correct me if you are aware. Emotional distress or mental anguish resulting from false claims and resulting consequences. See, that's not a small claims thing though, right? Yeah, I don't know. Why is she like running her mouth about this? Yeah, again, if the defendant shows a statement they made was true, you cannot win a slander lawsuit. That is not... Truth is not an absolute defense to slander. Truth is almost irrelevant in a courtroom, unfortunately. If a defendant shows a statement was not one of fact, but one of opinion, you can't recover compensation for damages. For example, if you're a chef and a customer falsely tells others in your restaurant that you served spoiled food, this is a false assertion of fact that could give rise to a slander claim. But if someone tells other patrons in your restaurant that they believe your food had a bad taste, this is an opinion and you can't successfully sue for slander because of it. Okay, like what did we just Google? I mean, listen, I'm not going to act like I did anything. Well, I mean, no, I looked at databases, okay? That's like one step above Google. Maybe like a half step. Okay, you got the receipts. He's got the dong. Okay, I just don't understand where we're going with this. Like, some of the most poisonous people come disguised as family. Is she going to play this in the court of law, in the people's court? What if they do like a Judge Judy thing? Oh my God, I would love that. The truth always comes out in the end, no matter how hard anyone tries to hide it or stop it. Lies are just a temporary delay to the inevitable. Unfortunately, I don't see this playing out in the political stage, so I'm just too cynical. In the political theater, see you in court. Okay, Adele. Okay, so she's adamant about... You see, this just comes off as an insistence on conflict versus resolution, and I don't know. I feel like if Amberlynn got a lawyer, they could like bring this up. But then this is just small claims. I don't know, like it's not that serious. Okay, I don't know, you guys. It's way too late for me to be doing all this. I just wanted to share this 4-minute clip with you. No, 41-second clip. And now I'm just going to go back to my other self. That's kind of it. I mean, that doesn't really prove much. I'm not trying to show too much of what Tammy's been putting online. I just feel like, girl, you sent this to court. Let the courts handle it, and we'll just see what happens from there. I hope that what I covered in this video was helpful or interesting to some of you. I'm really interested in looking into this, so I thought that maybe this was a deeper dive than some other channels where maybe they are better at doing like the canon and the lore. I think I'm better at this kind of research, so hopefully this was added value to the community. And if not, you know what? This is a palate cleanser from Chantal, so we accomplished something there. So let me know what you guys think about this whole thing. What do you think will happen? What do you think Amberlynn will do? and what Tammy will respond with. Yeah, I don't know. This is the first time I've seen something like this in Girl World, so we'll just have to wait and see. 15 to 30 days. No, less than that. 15 to 20 days. We'll find out what is going to happen. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!